Okay, so I run my program. It pops open my web browser and a picture of a turtle for no reason. Obviously I just had that picture sitting around. It could have been any picture. I hit send, it pings my server, bounces back, says something. And look, here's a bunch of HTTP. Okay. Do you feel like you get what's going on there? Anybody else seeing connection failed and happen to know how to solve that? Yeah, build and run the Java program. Aha. Let's see what happens there. If I just open the page.html directly, connection failed. Aha, I just reproduced it. So, yeah, here's why that works. This program is a web server, meaning it knows the HTTP protocol. It knows how to speak in HTTP, is the colloquial way of saying it. And it sits there running on your machine, waiting for a browser to talk to it. When it opens the browser and you push the button, the browser talks to that program, and the program responds and talks back to it. And yeah, so let me show you. Let's open up main.java.
Well, I officially feel really stupid.
What it means is you probably missed a day of class or something like that. So there's a line right here called browse. There it is. This command right there inside of the Java program opens up your web browser to this web page and tells the web page to start talking to it. We'd actually like 2 tabs, so let's, oops. I'm going to open 2 of them. Let's see if that works. If you just open the web page, what happens is the web page starts trying to talk to the server, and there is no server. So it can't establish the connection. It basically picks up the phone and hears a dial tone and says, "Hello, are you there? Speak to me." And can't get through. Yeah. Yeah, let's do that together. How about? Because that's kind of the first job you have, is you're going to have multiple clients connecting, and each of them needs some kind of ID. Basically, one of them needs to be Mario, one of them needs to be Goomba. How are we going to make that work? So, what? Java.net bind exception address already in use. What's going on? I have another one right here. If I press Control-C, kills my server. Now it's no longer using port 1234. You could, if you wanted to, rewrite your program to pick a random port at the start of when it starts. Then you could run multiple at the same time. But you'd kind of like, it's better to know you only have one running, right? So let's try again. Notice I didn't even recompile. This time it works. And looks to me, oh, there's the other one. It opened a second browser rather than a second tab. That's kind of annoying. I just wanted a tab. Oh well. Whoa, you can do that now? I just dragged the tab from one browser to the other and it worked. Huh. Okay. Well, let's make this one talk to the server. It got a message. I'll switch to this tab. Notice it doesn't have a message. It can talk to the server too. And they're both getting messages that say its favorite number is -1, which is garbage nonsense. But okay, so you can, I have now modified my program to open 2 web browsers. Wouldn't it be nice if both of them got their own unique identifiers? Let's do something about that. How should we do it? Fav_num here. How about, let's make my server have a member variable called, what? Int client ID equals 0. I'll start it out at 0 explicitly, even though Java does 0 by default. Then, when I say fav_num here, I'm going to put a close quote plus integer.toString of client ID plus that closing thing. See what I've done? I've inserted this hey, let's stringify the client ID and include it in my JSON blob here. Oh, and by the way, let's also increment that thing. So client ID plus plus. I'll say this dot just to make it clear that it's a member variable. How about? Well, if I've done that, Java C main.java, I get an error. What is my issue? Non-static variable cannot be referenced from a static context. What's going on? OnPost is a static method. What am I going to do about this? Why is it a static method? Because it says static right there, because I made it that way. Main is static. Main calls that. Basically, there are no objects anywhere in this program. It's just a bunch of static functions. You see that? So how are we going to store a number anywhere? We can store it in a member variable, which means all objects of type main have a client ID in them. But there are no objects of type main. Right? Oh, we could make it static too. That's the worst hack ever. Let's do it. Okay. Here's why that's a bad hack. This is basically saying that there can only be one object of this whole program, ever. I would rather make an object and use the stuff in that object so that we can, if we wanted to, run multiple servers inside the same program. But we're never going to do that, at least not in this assignment. So, you know what? This is kind of the way we're going to get this assignment done quickly. So let's just do it. I'm going to rename this to client counter. This is not the ID of any particular client. This is a counter that counts how many clients have connected to me. And it will be the ID that I tell the client. So I'm going to change that to client counter. And let's see what it does. Okay, now, Java C main, you don't like calling it this dot client counter because there is no this. But I can now say main dot client counter, or just not say it at all. And then let the compiler add that for me. Java main, and now it opened two browsers over in my other window. Look what happens when this one clicks send. Click. The backend server replied, thanks for the spiffy message, favnum1. Okay. Then I come over to this one and I click send and it says, thanks for the spiffy message, favnum equals 2. Okay, both clients have received numbers from the other side. And look what happens if I send again. Now it's 3. Yeah, so I can keep getting IDs if I want to. Now our client side is going to want to remember what its number is. Let me open my page.html. And remember CB. Do you know what CB stands for? Callback, right? Because callback. My HTTP post function, which is just a wrapper around the XML HTTP request method, which is built into JavaScript. Basically, this XML HTTP request function is kind of nasty to use. So I wrapped it in this nice little function that just makes it easy to use. Here's how it works. You tell it what URL to talk to. You tell it what you want to send to that URL. And when it gets a response, it's going to call your callback. Callback is a function which you're passing as a parameter that it's going to use right here to say, okay, I finally got the response from the server, and here it is. You get that? Okay. Actually, while we're at it, let's look a little deeper into this function. Notice something. First thing we do is we make a variable that stores an object. And then we say, request on ready state change equals function. What the heck is going on from there to there? Yeah, so this is an anonymous inline function. I'm declaring a function inside of a function. Yikes, right? I mean, nasty, but Basically, this function is not called, if you're doing the HTTP post instructions, you would first do this line, then you would do this, that equal sign, which sets it equal to this function, but all the stuff in this function is not called immediately. This is just sitting there as another function. The next instruction we do is this one, then that one, then that one, then that one. So that's all that happens. And when the server responds, this member variable here on ready state change, which has been attached to some function that I created, will eventually be called. In fact, it turns out it calls it 4 times. Once to say, hey, you started making a connection. Another time to say, hey, the server recognized your connection. And then another time, every time a few more bytes come in. And then finally the last time, which is when it reaches the on ready state, is 4, which means, hey, the server's done and has closed the connection. I just wait until it's done and close the connection before I call your callback. Why is it not indented properly? And when I do, you get the full response from the server. You could, in theory, write it to do other things like pop-up notification about its communication with the server, so you could make a little progress bar or something like that. But basically, I have abstracted that away for you in this nice little HTTP post function. Now, if you remember, there are actually 2 operations that HTTP has. We could also write an HTTP GET function if we wanted to, which could use the other one. What's the difference between GET and POST? Yeah. Basically, GET was designed for this URL bar. Whenever you do something in the URL bar, your browser uses GET, or in HTTP language, it says GET over the phone to the server to get a web page. That's what GET's all about. POST is designed for forms. When you use a form and you click the submit button, it posts to the server all of the form data. Turns out you can actually use GET with forms, and the default is to use GET with forms if you don't specify otherwise. And you can learn all about that if you start doing a lot of HTML forms. Long story short, in this assignment, your URL bar does GET requests. Your JavaScript is going to be doing POST requests because I provided an HTTP POST function for you here. And you could turn it around and do other things, but this is the way we're all going to do it because it'll be easier.